This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble. So, you want to find someone you're compatible with, specifically someone who's ready for a serious connection, totally open to having kids in the future, is a tall, rock-climbing Libra, and loves rom-coms with vegan pizzas on Tuesdays just as much as you do. Bumble knows that you know exactly what's right for you. So whatever it is you're looking for, Bumble's features can help you find it. Date now on Bumble.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Shannara, and Carta.
That's a great name.
Thank you.
Yes. I think you've used it before, but it's still a great name.
Yeah,
yeah, it happens. So, how are you doing today, Sesame?
I'm doing all right. Other than the fact that I've got a cold and everything's great.
That's great. Have you ever been on social media?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So, have you ever gotten in an argument on social media?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Have you ever had somebody start to troll you on social media?
Yes. Oh, yes, very much so. I actually had to change one of my screen names because of a troll that has some kind of mental issues and very aggressive type of behavior. Yes.
Yes. So the reason I bring that up is I just watched a documentary called Social Media Monster and directed by Peter John Ross, who is going to be on the show today. I'm going to talk to him about the movie and the history behind it. The basic thing here is, okay, so the Internet Decency Act and Section 230 laws allow social media companies like Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, and Gmail to have no legal liability for what happens on their services. So like the actions of users and stuff. So basically the way that former Google employees look at this is that the company views it like a gun manufacturer and they have no responsibility for what people do using their tools.
That seems oddly convenient.
Yeah. So so this is basically one of the major things behind this documentary Social Media Monster, where there is an alleged troll here who did a lot of things that were not too great for like a small town, or not a small town, but a town in Missouri called St. Joseph's, and did not do things that were great for this whole town. A lot of people felt in danger and other things based on this gentleman, and that's what this film is about. It's a really in a bigger picture, it's more about the idea of like people on social media having that anonymity sometimes to hide behind, and also the ability that in the past, before the internet, to bully somebody or allegedly, it's been basically easy. It was a lot harder to do, but now with social media, everyone has a pulpit and can say what they want one way or the other. So yeah, it's just kind of scary. So yeah, my interview here will delve more into that, and we'll basically be able to see more about what this documentary film is about. It's going to be coming out late May for rent on Amazon Prime, and then later this year on some other streaming platforms. So make sure you check it out. It's called Social Media Monster. And right now, here's my interview with the director of Social Media Monster, Peter John Ross. I mean, I've been a fan of yours for years, anyways. So I mean, I remember when you used to release stuff online, like stuff to help filmmakers, like
Yeah.
I used to download all those things and everything when I first started out as a filmmaker. So yeah.
Oh man, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to maintain that level of putting stuff out, and I found I was doing more of that than actually making films.
Yeah.
At time.
Yeah, because I remember using some of the things on my early films that are like short films and stuff I did. Yeah, so helped out a lot.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you throw things on the internet, you have no idea if people are actually using it.
Yeah, I don't even remember how I came across it. I think it was in like some film group on some social media a long time ago. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, that's great.
So to start off, can you just start by providing a little background on yourself, like how you started and everything?
I started wanting to become a filmmaker when I was 5 years old. The first time I set foot in a movie theater was to see Star Wars, and it just blew my mind. It just as much was the story and everything, but it was also, how did those crazy images get out of that guy's head and onto a movie screen?
Yeah.
And then what I really wanted to do for years was I wanted to write music for movies, and I did that. I mean, I finally got my chance, and the movies were so bad, I made that statement that everyone makes. I could do better than that. But the moment I said that, my entire life changed. And the only thing that made it possible was being able to shoot digitally and edit on a computer 24 years ago.
Yeah.
When that first shift happened to mini DV and computer-based editing, that's what allowed me to get into filmmaking. And I'm entirely self-taught. Pretty quickly, I went from being a licensed broker to a filmmaker in 8 months because I met one of my idols, Richard Linklater.
Oh, nice.
He came to Ohio State, and when I heard him talk, it just blew my mind. I mean, he was so cool, so inspirational, and I actually got to talk to him afterwards. And yeah, I think it was less than 2 weeks I started shooting my first short film on digital.
Yeah, Dazed and Confused is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I mean, I like all of his stuff, but that one's personal to me.
Dazed and Confused and Slacker.
Yeah, Slacker is amazing too.
And the Before trilogy. I'm so disappointed they didn't make another one, but the pandemic ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, maybe someday. Who knows?
I'll never give up.
No.
Maybe they'll do one when they're grandparents.
Yeah, that'd be fun. They'll meet in a nursing home in the middle of nowhere or something. As we mentioned in our introduction to this, you recently directed a movie called Social Media Monster. Could you just tell us a little bit about that project?
Social Media Monster is the strangest thing I've ever made, and it's I don't even know where to begin. It's like saying, tell me just to summarize the Lord of the Rings in 2 sentences. It's very hard for me to do. Basically, I have a cyber stalker that's been harassing me for 12 years. And when I saw him harassing a whole bunch of people in a Midwestern town called St. Joseph, Missouri, I got more fixated, and I actually thought, well, there's a story here, because I fell in love with the people and the way they reacted to him in this town. And I did pull the trigger to make a documentary. Like, there was one point where he said there was a local band that was going to do a tribute concert to him and give the money to his children that he doesn't give money to.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, oh my God. And he threatened to show up with an assault rifle, and I don't know what it was. And I'm like, I need to be there. Maybe. Why don't I drive 11 hours with all my gear to where a potential mass shooter is going to be and film the whole thing? Of course, he never showed up, but I had such a kinship with the people. And I really think a foundation of a story came from, and again, there's much bigger themes. It's not just about this one guy. It's about how we as a society have moved hard into social media.
Yeah.
And less so in reality. And laws and law enforcement are easily 25, 30 years behind. And the courts are almost 100 years behind. And and these social media companies have, not only do they have no liability, legally speaking, they have no reason to get involved, because the more someone harasses, the more engagement they get, they profit from it.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it goes back to the whole like news thing where if it bleeds, it leads sort of thing. You know, we just have this.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, it's this whole thing. I mean, I know I've had some like not stalker yet, but like a lot of trolls online that just attack me for no reason. You know, because they disagree with me politically or whatever. You know, they just decide that. Oh, I just had one 2 nights ago, so it happens, you know. So yeah,
and I think that's what makes the documentary so relatable.
Yeah, definitely. Can you tell us like how the like stalking with you started? Like how he?
Yeah. Oh, it all it happened was at first there was a guy named Taylor Hanachek on the indie film site that's still going called IndieTalk.com.
Okay.
I saw this Taylor, you know, he made a post going, "Hey, I just took a shower with 2 strippers. Being a filmmaker is awesome." And then a girl that I know from Chicago goes, "You got laid and you want high fives?" You know, like, what is this? And then he starts reaming her about, one was a drug addict, blah, blah, blah. And he just starts railing at her. And that's how I saw it was I'm friends with this girl, Dreadylocks. And I responded as like, "Hey, dude, nothing in your initial post conveyed any kind of seriousness." And he just railed at me and I was like, just forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then like a week or 2 later, I get an email from someone with a different name. Matthew Kane starts emailing me saying, you know, that they're going to sue the website, really liked what I was doing, that he's originally from Ohio, not far from where I am, blah, blah, blah. He's like, "Do you want to get on this lawsuit with me?" And I'm like, "Wait, are you the dude with the 2 strippers?" I'm like, "You don't have a lawsuit, dude." There's no lawsuit there. You didn't lose money. And then he's just started sending me email after email after email, calling me a fat fuck and saying that he was going to sue me. And it got so absurd. It was fascinating at the time because he's like, "I've just filed a lawsuit." I'm like, "It's a Sunday afternoon.
You can't file a lawsuit."
The courts aren't open on Sundays. It's like, what do you mean? And it's like, sue me for what? What do you say for telling you that you don't have a lawsuit?
Yeah.
And I just ignored him. And then the sad part was, on a personal note, I was at the end of a 10.5-year relationship, and my ex showed up and took one of our 3 cats to go with her, you know, which we agreed on and everything. And so when she left, I'm kind of like, well, I was like, shoot, somebody's got to pay for my misery right now.
Yeah.
Why not the person that just sent me 8 emails calling me a fat fuck? Seems like the right place to put that anger and venom. It's not like I'm going to go yell at some innocent person. It's like, why not the person that's being a raging asshat towards me? And that was my mistake. As flippant as I sound about it, it's like, I never should have done that. It was wrong of me to do that, even to him. Because I think that that's the root of why he's still angry at me 12 years later.
That's the
still raging.
Longest like grudge or something I could ever imagine somebody having, you know? It's like weird.
But I mean, and it's not, but at the same time, I mean, I'm always going to concede what I've done. It's like, it's not like for years after I didn't continue the back and forth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to be honest, I mean, I said really horrible things to him that night when my girlfriend left. I'm like, well, this guy's being really rude. He's insulting. He's stalking. He's threatening. And it's like, I still said things that were really mean and cruel. And, you know, it's just bizarre. But yeah. And then I took like a year and a half where I just ignored him. And then when I checked my spam folder, like I set up a specific spam folder for anything with his name.
Yeah.
It was full.
Oh, wow.
He never stopped emailing me during that time period.
That's definitely an obsession, stalking or something, you know, online stalking at least, you know, it's.
And then what happened is his obsession has fueled my obsession.
Yeah.
My obsession with why would someone be obsessed with me?
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I find it endlessly fascinating. It's like, I'm one of the world's most boring humans. And it's like, why is someone obsessed with me? So yeah, it's a never ending circle. But at this point, I found that through creating the documentary, you know, I took a journalism class in high school and it was just beaten into me, objectivity. And it's like, it forces me to constantly think, how does what I'm doing or saying appear?
Yeah.
What am I saying in this documentary? And am I providing enough of his side of the story? am I giving benefit of the doubt? And it's like that became therapeutic as a way to deal with the stalking. Because since the documentary's been finished and playing at film festivals, I've been granted a civil stalking protection order against him in court.
That's good.
Then he's violated it. There are criminal charges. He was found in contempt of court. They've issued warrants for his arrest.
Wow.
But they're misdemeanors. So that means nothing if he's not in the city of Columbus.
Yeah, I know.
Utterly meaningless.
Yeah, like you said, the whole online thing, it's like, so the laws are so antiquated on this thing, it's like they can't really catch up to it. And it seems like that with any kind of like new technology, our government just doesn't seem to catch on. It's like you've got people in Congress who don't even understand what the internet is. So
it's only been a couple of years since we had that old senator. It's like it's a series of tubes.
Yeah.
And that guy is writing laws or voting on laws on how this affects people's lives.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, seeing like the recent, like, hearings about like TikTok and stuff like that, where people are just not understanding in Congress what TikTok even is, let alone, why it should or shouldn't be banned. It's like stupid.
And I don't think it necessarily, the weird thing is I think it should be banned on the basis of being owned by the Chinese government. Yeah. They're not actually talking about banning it. They're talking about forcing it to be not a government entity of China.
Yeah.
And I guess they're just horrible at selling it.
Yeah. So
it's just, it's a big mess. And I mean, all of this is so interrelated into people's lives at this point.
Yeah. And the thing is like, my main issue, getting off topic, but the TikTok thing with the thing is like, I think, it's no worse or better than like Facebook or Twitter or whatever they call it these days, X or whatever. I won't call it that. But even though I just did, but like they buy information and everything and sell it to the Chinese anyway. So it's like, you basically agree to that. But I understand the whole Chinese government being involved, being a scarcity. But my fear is that some billionaire in the United States is going to buy it and it's just going to get worse anyways. So, and it's going to violate privacy like, anyways.
They're robbing Peter to pay Paul in that regard. So I don't disagree with anything you just said.
Yeah. So with the with this movie and with the subject of the movie, do you hope that this like gets anything changed out there or anything? Or do you think it will?
I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'm going to affect any real change. I just want people to see it, be entertained by the story, and maybe ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask questions of the social media companies. Because it's like, my dead honest opinion is, I have no idea if the subject of Social Media Monster, the guy Matthew, I have no idea if he's severely mentally ill.
Yeah.
Or if he's just a really mean, horrible person. Because I've seen exceptional performances by him to where he faked being mentally ill in one video and then demonstrated that he was very much potentially mentally ill in another.
Yeah.
I have no idea. That's way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
I can't diagnose anybody. No. I'm not qualified. But all I can say is what I've seen does not give me any answers. I don't know. But what the only result is, he's doing incredible amounts of damage to people.
Yes.
And he's being allowed to do it. I am working on kind of a sequel/series.
Oh, cool.
That continues the storyline. And I have recordings of FBI agents and chiefs of police directly stating, as long as he stays out of Columbus, Ohio, he will be allowed to continue doing what he's doing.
So it has to be like in city limits.
You can't be mad at the police or FBI.
Yeah.
They're beholden to the laws. They are called law enforcement.
Yeah.
They didn't write the laws.
No.
They're stuck to enforcing what's there. Yeah. So how do you get laws changed? Yeah. In this political climate, do you think we're going to affect any real change?
No.
So to answer your question, no, I don't think this is going to change anything.
Yeah. I hope it at least, maybe opens up the minds of the people that are watching it to maybe be more careful online and to not feed trolls, basically just kind of ignore them, because I think that's the best option. I find myself in it every day though, when I start I get attacked and it's like I can't help it but bite back, and I don't really mean to. Yeah. So
yeah, and it's incredibly difficult. I mean, especially, again, I don't want to diagnose anybody, but it appears as a layperson that the social media monster I've been talking about, I mean, I think Stevie Wonder can see that he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
In the clinical sense.
Definitely.
So there's the concept of narcissistic supply, which is, I really do question when he says such horrible things about me, is he just trying to get me to respond so that he can have an interaction with me? Which is, and you be objective about it, it's like, well, that's really sad that he's so desperate for human interaction and attention that somebody telling him to go fuck himself is a warmer blanket than the silence of nobody giving a shit about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the downfalls of social media, and because I mean, I'm 46 and I grew up before the internet, so it's like we had interaction with our friends in the neighborhood or whatever when growing up, and it was like you actually had connections and stuff, and I think that a lot of that's missed now that we feel like we have more connections now because you have like 5,000 friends online or whatever, and you got it's like, but are they really friends? Are they and yeah, I mean, I personally can count on my hand like the number of people I actually trust and consider intimate friends. But yeah,
and I'm 52 years old, and I one of the strangest benefits of making this documentary is some of my best friends right now are people I met solely because this guy targeted or harassed them.
Yeah.
And we've all met in the real world. Like when we screened this documentary in St. Joseph, Missouri, one of the single most humbling things I've ever experienced in my entire life was people flew in from both coasts that he had harassed or targeted to be there for this screening, and we all met in person for the first time. And the fact that they spent money to do that they wanted to be there and support me, that is not something I will ever, ever forget or take for granted.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole shared experience, which is definitely, that's the foundation of interaction with people. And I think that, Matthew kind of doesn't have that. I don't think, like in his life, it doesn't seem like he has any kind of shared experience with people.
Not a real experience. And I think that's, again, let's talk about one of the main pillars of the documentary and the eventual sequel series. It is this idea that it's like that substitute of virtual friends or virtual interactions is how damaging it can be to someone with an actual mental illness. Now, I'm not stating that Matthew has a mental illness. I don't know. I have no way of knowing for certain what is or isn't real with him. But what I find interesting about the concept is what they say to like nurses and people that work in a mental ward. If you're dealing with someone that has delusions, they tell you to never say anything that would reinforce it. Like if they're like, I'm hearing things, do you hear it? You don't say, yes, now let's go. You don't say anything that would validate their delusions, or they will use that as, I knew it. I knew everybody could hear the voices. You know what I mean? And again, I am not trying to imply that Matthew is like that, but to a lesser degree, taken in a broad sense, if you're mentally ill and you're looking for validation, what is it you have on every tweet or Facebook post? What's the one button you're most looking at? Likes, agree, heart, whatever it is. So if you post something delusional and you get any likes, you're like, I knew it. And you just buy in deeper into the delusions, and it's so much harder to come out of them.
Yeah, I think that's...
So to me, I mean, again, I can't speak to whether or not that's applicable to Matthew with any kind of definitive, but it certainly appears that way on the surface, that he is seeking this mass validation of, if he makes up a lie about himself, it's like when he says the completely ridiculous, I exposed the Flint water crisis, which he did not do. That's factually not true at all. But he writes that somewhere, nobody checks on it, and they're just like, oh, I started following this guy. He's like, people believe me, it must be true. So if he ever actually did talk to a mental health professional, it is going to be so much harder to get him out of that delusion, because he's been reinforced over and over and over again by social media, and how not real social media is, how not real that like is.
Yeah,
but if you're desperate to believe something, that's going to become a pillar of your life.
Anybody can post anything online, and then, people will agree with it. I mean, I could post that I discovered the bubonic plague, and, you don't, so yeah, people will be like, yeah, sure, Mike did it.
You probably get 100 likes.
Yeah. It's just like, it's ridiculous.
You could literally say the moon is a satellite in the sky, and you will find people that agree with you. That doesn't make it true.
I mean,
but it makes it harder for the truth to come through now because of social media.
I had a conversation the other day with a guy trying to convince me that the Earth was flat. So then he totally believed it. And this was in person too. It wasn't online. So yeah.
Try getting them on an airplane.
Yeah.
And talk to the pilot about the curvature that you're literally looking at.
Yeah. I know. It's just like, because we were outside and he saw the horizon and he's like, see how it's just flat, the horizon? And I'm like,
get up in a plane.
Yeah.
And look at it the same way. Like, you'll see the curvature.
Yeah, go into up on a mountain or something, look down, It's just ridiculous. But people will believe anything. Do you think that if he does, I mean, we're just speculating, we're not saying that he does have a mental illness, but that Matthew, if could possibly get help, do you think, to reform himself?
In theory, he could.
Yeah.
But do I think he ever will? I really don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think he would get mental health help unless he was forced to. And even then, I think he would view it as a way of trying to scam his way out of it. Or it's like, just bide my time till I get out of here and get back to my normal life.
Yeah. Say
whatever the doctors want to hear and get out of here. I think that's my opinion. Is I think he views everything as, how do I get back to just getting what I want? So, but that's just my opinion. I it's based on everything I've seen over the last 12 years. I wish he was not as fascinating as he is.
Yeah.
It is like watching a car crash in slow motion.
Yeah. I was thinking that.
And I can't turn my head away from it. I can't, because so much of his life is revolved around me at this point that it's kind of like, but the big thing I've done, like right now at this moment, let me see if he's saying it at this moment. He just an hour or two ago was screaming into his iPhone about me.
Jeez.
Yeah, 4 hours ago, he made a tweet on, he has twitter.com/Matthew Burdick.
Yeah.
And it's, the title of the page is now, Social Media Monster is Not a Documentary. And then he made a video today saying, the bizarre pleasure Ross takes from harming innocent people.
So if it's not a documentary, did you hire all these people to be actors in this film, or what? All the real people and him even,
Well, I will tell you about an incident that just happened recently that was completely mind-blowing. So we've been nearing the release. I've been teasing the release, but I didn't have a date until the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so the thing that happened was as I'm teasing the release out, I'm not teasing him, I'm teasing it in general to all my friends and family, and he seems to think everything I do is some kind of direct statement to him.
Yeah.
Again, which is more evidence for my hypothesis that he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
So what happened was, as I'm teasing out the release, he did this whole thing of, he said, I have just obtained the 911 phone call in the documentary and all the police reports, and I have officially, this discredits the entire film. Now, I'm going to be truthful to say, I had not obtained the police reports or the 911 call. I just interviewed all the people, and I just assumed it was accurate, but I never actually checked. So I checked. Somebody in St. Joseph went down, did the Sunshine Request Law thing. We paid $7.50 and got the police reports and the transcript of the 911 call. And it was so embarrassing. I was on a live stream for my day job.
Yeah.
Working in a live stream. I get the messages going, I just picked up the stuff. I'm scanning it. You've got to read this. So I went to lunch after the live stream on my way home, and I almost got asked to leave the restaurant because I was laughing so hard. Because not only does it not exonerate Matthew in any way, it is so much worse than anything in the documentary. The police reports are so damning to him.
Yeah.
They not only confirm everything, they say things like, he he ran his car and almost ran into us on the street to get us to pull over. And then they were like, like he said that he had been punched and they could not see anything, no bruising, no redness, no swelling, nothing on his face, refused to allow them to take a photo for the record, and then accused them of, you're trying to prevent me from getting medical assistance and I'm going to sue the city over this.
Wow.
They did take photos and look at the hands of the guy that supposedly punched him, and they're like, no redness, no swelling, nothing to show that he had punched anyone. Nonetheless, Matthew.
Yeah.
Then they said things like, he randomly said he was a millionaire filmmaker from California 6 times apropos to nothing. So it's like stuff like this that I'm reading this and I'm laughing because I'm like, why is he saying this exonerated him? This buries him. It's like, I don't understand. I don't. And that's why I'm so hooked on this ongoing story, because I'm like, this is the kind of person that if you wrote a fictional character, no one would believe he's real.
Yeah, it'd get passed over by every studio in the business,
because,
or every book author.
No one in real life would act like this.
Yeah.
And he is real, and he's continuing to act like this. So yeah, I'm. That was just like not even a month ago.
So it was this whole it was the IHOP thing that
yes.
911 call. Yeah, just making sure.
All the police reports from IHOP. And
yeah.
I don't know why he's so convinced he's discredited the movie in his head. And it's like he keeps trying to say that when I said what I was going to do with an assault rifle, that was just a thought experiment. It's like, no, it isn't. That's you screaming into a phone saying, what would I do if I had an assault rifle in my hands right now? Would I commit a mass shooting? It's like, most people aren't that passionate about a little thought experiment. That sounds like someone
it's a threat
on the verge of snapping, especially when they say the words, I'm about to snap.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't understand why he thinks that that's a convincing argument.
I mean, you can say it's like a play you were doing or something, but you have to state that at the beginning, It's not like, people just say that randomly.
No. And yeah, so I mean the mental, it's Olympic gold medal mental gymnastics that he does to try to explain everything. And it just doesn't hold any water to any normal human being.
No.
I mean, I feel like, and the thing about it is I presented the documentary. I present what he said at the time and after, and he contradicts himself several times. That's why I like the vertical videos, which I normally hate, but putting them side by side to see him contradict himself, it's like, yeah, I'm not the one doing this. You are. I mean, he really is trying to kill the messenger. I've seen literally with the death threats.
I've seen in some things where he says that he's making his own documentary or something too about it or whatever. So do you think there's any validity to that? Yeah.
No, I think he's already, you can't keep up with the pathological lying.
Yeah.
I can play you audio of him saying, I'm already working with crews from an actual streaming company. We've started shooting the counter documentary. That was like a year ago.
Yeah.
There's no crew. There's no shooting.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. It's a guy, again, in a big way, I still feel sorry for him because I knew a kid when I was really young in Wadsworth, Ohio. He was our friend, but everybody hated him because his mom was a doctor and his dad was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I can't remember which anymore, but because that's 40 years ago. But we always felt sorry because he still had to pathologically lie. But, he was 9 years old at the time. We were all 9 years old.
Yeah.
So we just accepted it as like, yeah, whatever. We already know you're lying. Who cares? Let's just keep doing what we're doing. But to be almost 50.
Yeah.
And doing the same thing. And it's like the lies are trying to, I don't know if he's lying to himself or if it's a deception for the world, like that he knows he's lying and he's trying to just get out of the hole that he's in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It very possibly could be this very sad thing of it's a mental illness and it's a defense mechanism, which is he's constantly defending, like he's building up these scenarios in his imagination that he's saying into his phone just to be as a defense mechanism to protect himself from having to face what he's actually done and said.
Yeah, I mean, I've known some people in real life that I've worked with in the past that are similar to this, not like on the level of Matthew, but it's like they are constantly lying about things, saying that, oh, I'm good friends with this celebrity, or I'm doing this or whatever, and it's just like, and it's very provable that they're not. So it's, and these are adults too. So it's just, I mean, it's one thing if you're, like you're saying, your friend when you're a kid, like if my niece or nephew came up to me and was just like, yeah, I'm friends with Blippi or whatever, whatever kids, character they like, and I'd be like, yeah, sure you are. Yeah. That's, I'm not going to reinsure, but it's like, yeah, but, for an adult to say that, it's like weird.
Yeah. It's surreal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the things of like, it'll be 3 a.m. and he'll be like, I just spoke to an attorney and they said I can sue for this. It's like, you spoke to an attorney at 3 a.m. and you're living in your car with no money. So you just spoke to an attorney at 3 a.m.
Yeah, there's those night shift attorneys, that everybody knows about. Wait, what?
And they happen to agree with your completely insane and untrue legal theory.
Yeah.
It's like, do you not understand how obvious this lie is? And
yeah.
No, he does apparently. And what's truly amazing is he will not give it up either, that he will never concede that he's lied.
So,
it's shocking.
Do you, is there anything that you wish you knew going into making the documentary that you learned as you went along?
I mean, I don't have, my only documentary filmmaking experience before this was kind of behind the scenes documentary stuff for filmmaking, whether it was my PBS series Framelines for regional channels, or if it was for features that I've made and stuff like that. So I never had any experience with this. And one of the things I had always vowed was, it's like, I actually enjoy a Michael Moore and Morgan Spurlock documentary.
Yeah.
But because of that journalism class I think in high school, I'm like, I would never make something like that because I feel like it's kind of breaks the journalism rule.
Yeah.
But that's not to say I don't enjoy their films, as they're not very good, very entertaining, and they are documentaries and whatnot. It's just, I was like, I would never do that. So what is the first documentary? Like, I'm in it. It's about something that I'm involved with.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm kind
very
of like,
Michael Moore.
Okay. But, so yeah, the only thing I wish I'd known before was, there's always regrets about things I wish I'd done different, but that has less to do with the documentary as much as it does my interactions with Matthew. I wish I'd been more empathetic.
Yeah.
I wish, number one, I just ignored him.
Yeah.
I wish I just ignored it and let it go and never interacted. But at this point, his obsession with me is so deep.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I could go to sleep at night without the fear that if I don't know kind of basically where he is regionally, I'm not going to sleep at night.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is like, if you didn't interact with him, so many years ago, you may have the spotlight on the issue in St. Joseph's may have never been here, and nobody would have known about it except for the people in that town.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the worst part about the St. Joseph, the weird thing about this documentary was also one of the big criticisms I get is, well, it's like, I want to know more about his past. I want to know more about the other cities. And it's kind of like, that's another story for another time that I am making.
Yeah.
But this is a story about St. Joseph, Missouri, which is the only reason I felt like I could direct that, because it's not about me.
Yeah.
My role in this story is so minute, and the only reason I'm there is because he dragged me into it.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with any of it.
Yeah.
He kept, like, his second article on his newspaper, aka WordPress blog, was an article about this dumbass Columbus filmmaker, Peter Jurgensen. Like, what do I have to do? What does that have to do with St. Joseph, Missouri? It just doesn't make any sense. But again, he thinks I'm the Joker to his Batman.
Yeah.
But it's just as realistic as a Batman comic book.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdness is the psychological projection of he keeps doing things and then saying that I'm doing them when it's him. Like the ultimate example is with one of the film festivals I was at recently. Like I just completed a vlog about, we went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania for a film festival, and I posted photos, but I had Photoshop blurred the logos, but somehow he sharpened it up, found it. he contacted the film festival director, started calling him during their award ceremony, leaving voicemails, contacted the entire board of directors, the local police, all the local TV and print news, all upset because we played to 12 to 15 people. Didn't win any awards and just went home. But then he called them, got into a major fight with the newspaper, threatened reporters, or at least they felt threatened. I don't know what the exact wording was. I never saw it, but they felt threatened. It was a whole big to-do. And then he goes around claiming that I caused all of the madness and chaos. And it's like, how are you not responsible for what you did? Yeah. I don't understand. Well, it's just, again, it's like,
I mean, it's like the speculation of narcissism, because, you know, a narcissist doesn't want to ever take the blame. They want to be the victim, you know, so it's just the way it is.
Yeah, there's something about the parallel here where he's the hero and the victim at the exact same time. Like, he's this badass hero doing all this work, but he can't do any of that work because he's the victim. And it's like, what? How does that work?
Sadly, that's how I think a lot of people in, like, with that frame of mind are, you know, because there's people in political positions like that too. I notice a lot, you know, so on both sides, not just, you know.
Oh yeah, it's
definitely,
narcissism does not know a political party.
No. So do you ever plan to make any, I know you're making like some sequel type stuff to this. Do you ever plan of diving into any other documentary films in the future, or do you think you're going to go back to narrative?
I think I'm going to only focus on documentary filmmaking from now on.
Nice.
I think that this is, the last 2 years, it's like any interest in narrative filmmaking has kind of left my bones.
Yeah.
I don't seem to have any interest in it. I mean, I'm not going to stick with just this topic.
Yeah.
But I definitely, I don't know. The one thing I have that I'm working on, which is like my big side project, is I do this thing called Cinestudy. Mm-hmm. And it's cinestudy.org. It's a nonprofit kind of film educational thing.
Yeah.
It's doing those short little 2 or 3 minute how-to videos and, you know, filmmaking tips. But I've also been doing a lot of editing tutorials with it, where I'm giving out all the raw footage to either a scene or a short film, and then there's like a little lesson with it. Now, during the pandemic, my web stats went, woo!
Yeah, everybody's at home.
But,
yeah.
Well, I mean, we had teachers that needed material overnight.
Yeah.
And here were a dozen free lessons online for anyone. And that was all over the world. Like, when I got an email from Harvard saying they were using this material in class. And then the crown jewel, they didn't tell me, but on the web stats, you can see that it's like they have the teachers have a private link that you can only get to if you're a student, you log in. Uh-huh. But when USC Film School is secretly using my footage, that was like, like, holy cow.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not good enough to get into the school, but I'm good enough for my material to be used to teach the people that go to the school. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people went through that school, so yeah.
I have no embitterment about it whatsoever. I could not be more proud that my educational material is being used to educate filmmakers all over the planet. Like, I think I have more hits from India in Indian film schools than I do from the U.S.
That's
but
crazy.
It's Australia, Vietnam, Russia, all over Europe. It's just amazing. And I have one thing, I have an ambitious project I'd like to do with Cinestudy, but it'll require funding that's kind of beyond the scope of anything I've ever done before to try to put together. Yeah. Like, I have a year-long Cinestudy project I want to put together. And part of it is the documentary stuff I can do either alone or in very small groups of 3, 4, 5 people. This is going to require a couple hundred people to do.
Wow.
And and they're not going to be free, because I want it to be at that higher end professional level. So there's a narrative film involved in that I would be directing and producing. But the point of it would not be to make the film. The point of it would be to make projects that everybody on the internet for free. Because again, for me, the idea is you have the upper class high schools have media and film classes, but inner city schools and rural schools do not have media classes. So I want to be kind of the great equalizer for that and kind of like level that out to like, hey, if you can't afford media classes, here's all the stuff you can get for free to learn what they would learn in those classes.
Yeah, I mean, even when I went to school in the 90s, high school in the 90s, and we didn't even have anything at my school, and we were a private Catholic school in Toledo, Ohio, and we still didn't have, so it's just, yeah. But
yeah, I mean, for me, we had the tech school downtown Columbus called Fort Hayes.
Yeah.
Now, they've had a television class since the 80s.
Yeah.
But that's morphed into video, film, multimedia, social media video. And most of the tech schools now have that as a specialty.
Yeah.
But they're only at the tech schools or the really high-end suburbs. So I'd like to see that for anybody who's at a rural school or an inner city school where there's no money. I'd like those people to have the opportunity to learn this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I probably about 10 years ago checked out, they have one now at my alma mater, and a friend of mine I went to high school with was teaching it at the time, and it was amazing, all the stuff they had, and I was just like, wow, why didn't they have this? Obviously some of the technology wasn't existing, but it was like...
Yeah, and that's the big thing for me is I don't ever, I mean, again, I don't think you're being this way, but it's like, I don't ever want to be bitter about what I didn't have.
No, I know.
I didn't get that from you either.
Yeah.
Just so clear. I'm just saying for myself, I have to constantly remind myself, it's like, don't be bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Give back to the world give the world what you wish you had had.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do with Cinestudy.
And that's the thing, you can't be bitter. You can't be jealous of other people. You just gotta, only competing with yourself. It's not like anything else.
That's my biggest thing is like, one of the most fundamental things about me as a human being was I had an older brother who passed away from brain cancer a couple years ago.
I'm sorry.
He was 7 years older than me. So when he was 15 years old and I was 8, he tried to get me into football by not holding back. And that game ended after like 4 plays with 2 broken ribs, a broken nose, and a broken collarbone.
Wow.
And then he couldn't figure out why I never liked sports again after that. And because it fundamentally changed me as a person then to be like, I don't believe in competition. It's like, no matter how hard I tried, as an 8-year-old, I would never have taken down my 15-year-old brother.
Yeah.
It wasn't physically possible. So the concept of competition just eroded in my mind, and I had zero interest in it the rest of my life. So the same thing goes with filmmaking. Like, I can't stand all the filmmaking competitions, like the 48-hour film projects and the 3-week ones. I nothing against them in terms of people who are inspired by that. More power to you. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
If that motivates you, that's a positive thing. It has no motivation for me, and I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
Meaning, how do you compare 2 films?
Yeah.
They're 2 pieces of art. They're 2 pieces of subjective art. Now, there's obviously objective technicalities, but it's still art. You know what I mean? How fair is it to compare, a 17-year-old filmmaker and like a 40-year-old filmmaker with radically different equipment and experience? Is it technically better? It's like, well, I still think that's subjective. I mean, my mind is like, it's a never-ending circle of there is no actual objectivity. It's just subjective because you're judging art.
I've worked on crews of 48-hour film festivals with people, and I just did it basically because I thought it was fun to try to get a film done in that short of time. I didn't care what the prizes were or anything like that, the end result. I didn't. I mean, it was fun to work with people in such a short period of time. Yeah. So it's
I did
fun.
1 as director and 2 as editor.
Yeah.
For other people. And I mean, I'm not saying I didn't have fun or anything like that, but it's like I had zero interest in the competitive side of it.
Yeah.
At all.
And it's like I've never understood the competition, and like even like the Ohio State Michigan game or something, it's like people getting so obsessed with their team, and I'm just like, I worked at a Blockbuster years ago, and it was in Toledo, which is right on the border of Michigan, so it was like Michigan and Ohio State fans both in the Blockbuster on the day of the game, and a fight broke out in the line of a Blockbuster.
So 2 interesting things about that, which is my dad was the student manager with Woody Hayes for 3 years at Ohio State.
Nice.
So Ohio State football is a religion in my family.
Yeah.
And to let you know where my family feels is I went to Bowling Green right near Toledo for college for 2 years. And number two, I was given black sheep slippers. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very aware of the Ohio State, Michigan, and I enjoy watching the game, but I have nothing vested emotionally.
That's the way I feel.
Beyond the athletics of the moment, I have nothing vested whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about most sports and everything. You know, I mean, I'm right near Bowling Green and Findlay right now is where I moved to. So, yeah,
nice.
Yeah, I'm nearby. So, yeah. So I was just up through Bowling Green yesterday.
Derek Rimmelspa from Findlay?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. I have to look him up.
He moved away after high school and went to OSU, and he stayed in Columbus. He was a DGA assistant director.
Oh, that might be why, yeah.
He worked on Spider-Man 3, Avengers, Captain America. He got really high up on the George Clooney movie that shot in Cincinnati, the one with Ryan Gosling.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, Derek's from Findlay.
Oh,
so
nice.
I always wonder if anybody knows.
Yeah. Yeah, I just moved here a couple years ago, so I probably never, was around when he was. So, yeah.
What's his name? How did the name? I'm seeing his face. Who's the guy that primarily now does like 48-hour film project ones? Older guy. He's around my age. He used to run the Columbus 48. He has a video production company in Findlay. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Is it the guy that runs like Capture One, or is it another one? Because there's one that I know he's around.
Remember?
Here. Yeah.
God, how do
I
not
can't remember. Yeah, because I'm involved in like the Toledo Film, with people that are involved in the Toledo Film Commission and stuff. So I know that a lot of the people in the Northwest. Yeah. So yeah, my friend's the secretary of it, and another friend is the president of it. So it's just But yeah, anyways, I've got some fun questions here just to kind of bring us down, bring us up or whatever I should say.
Yeah.
So, okay. If your life were a movie, what would be the title and what actor would you want to play you?
Title of the movie for my life would be Triple Bypass Cafe. And most likely Jim Belushi should play me.
Nice. Another question here. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Ursula Andress and Dr. No.
Good one.
Well, I'm thinking my dad, huge James Bond fan, all about Connery.
Yeah.
And I rewatched Dr. No so many times. And yeah, Ursula Andress, oh my.
Yeah, that scene of her coming out of the water and everything.
Yeah,
yep. If you had to choose between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, who would you choose?
Beatles.
Good. Me too.
No question, Beatles.
Yes.
And my favorite period is Rubber Soul Revolver.
Yeah.
Those two albums are the transition between early pop Beatles and hippie post Beatles. And they're perfect hybrids of those two eras and those two albums done in the same year.
I agree totally. Rubber Soul is like my favorite album of all time.
Revolver's mine.
Yeah,
I like Revolver just a little bit better.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while making a film?
Okay, so I did a World War II Nazi zombie werewolf movie called Horrors of War.
Yeah, I remember watching that years ago. Yeah.
And it was possible because we found these German World War II reenactors, and they were so helpful. It's so easy to get allied. They loved being the Germans. None of them would do SS. None of them were Nazis. They made a joke once about how they would do demonstrations at schools when they were studying World War II, and the mothers would be like, "Y'all are so nice. Do you have like a summer camp or something you put together?" Like, "Yes, ma'am. They used to have that in Germany, and it's called Hitler Youth, and we don't do that." But one of the things they did that floored me was on our last day of shooting, and none of the behind the scenes cameras were there. Their entire unit gave me a medal and did an awards presentation, and nobody saw it but them and me. And their big salute to me, man, that was my first clue that I should have never let my ego get the better of me, which I did multiple times in the last 24 years. There's like 3 times where I let my ego just balloon up only to get popped. An idiot that I am, I just let it do it again, but I'm not going to let that happen ever again.
That's good.
And that was one of those moments that should have been my clue to be more humble and appreciate what I've got more.
Yeah.
So that was probably the wildest thing that ever happened on a film set. Was having these guys dressed as German World War II soldiers giving me an award that was highly emotional, that had nothing to do with Nazism.
Sounds like a really weird dream, you know?
Yes, but it really happened.
I know. So, and anything else you want to say about your current film or anything else?
Yeah, I'll say one more thing that I just kind of hit on, which was about my ego. It's kind of like making this documentary fundamentally changed me as a human being. I am a different human being because I made this. I mean, as I said earlier, the start of the story is I got divorced without ever being married. When your breakup includes lawyers because you owned, property, pets, and cars and stuff together, you had to get lawyers involved. We still got divorced. We just never got married.
Yeah.
Had to have lawyers involved. Anyway, that was my first clue that it's like, stop being arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. And then everything with Horrors of War, ego got big. Nothing happened with it.
Yeah.
And I still let myself get arrogant when I started getting Emmy nominations for Framelines, my PBS show. And I let my ego get big again over nothing, that I didn't deserve it. And so I spent years trying to become a better person. And I don't know if it's because I had Matthew as an example of what not to be.
Yeah.
That made it clear, or
Might
if it
be.
was just finally recognizing some of the efforts had started to pay off. I started to stop all the bad behavior that was causing the ego. But it was through the process of making this documentary that it's like I grew a greater appreciation for everyone else's help, for everything everybody else does, to never be angry when people don't do something you wanted them to do or whatever. Not all that matters is listen to people. Like my biggest thing with making this is I just put my ego in the pocket, and it's like I listen to suggestions. Like the majority of the editing was like I would basically take 50% of every editing suggestion.
Yeah.
With some people, it was like 75, 80% of their suggestions. Like when I first heard it, I'm like, ew, I don't want to do that. But I was like, but I didn't actually react that way. I'd be like, no, let's try it.
Yeah.
What's it going to hurt? It's computer editing.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like it, I can change it back.
You can put
Who
it back,
cares?
yeah.
But I would make the change and be like, cool, I'm doing it. And I was just like, it isn't about what I would want or what I would do. It's like, I'm trying to make the best movie.
That's like that
And that's-
kill your darlings quote. Yeah. You gotta
Yeah.
just kill,
To me, it was all about ego. It's like, well, my instincts have basically given me a shit, no success career. Well, why am I still listening to me?
Yeah.
Maybe if I listen to other people, I might have more success. And every step of that has been absolutely true.
Uh-huh.
It has been all about making a better movie.
Yeah.
And it's by truly embracing the idea of a collaborative art.
Yeah.
Of listening to other people. I mean, that's never to say that, I'm just like a pushover and I'll just do whatever I want. It's like, no, I'm going to take the good advice that I think betters my intent, and listening to their opinions and being like, they're telling me what I did and didn't do to achieve my intent. And that's why, we did 3 rounds of shooting my interviews in the movie.
Oh.
My interviews in it were shot from ground zero up 3 separate times to clarify the narrative, to new information would come in. We have to address it. You know what I mean? It's like because part of the process was, as we were making the documentary and Burdick became aware, he kept making videos talking about the events and we would take those and put them in the movie. I added some of his comments from December 5 months ago into the current cut because he changed his story again. It's like, well, then let's put this in.
That's why I can see that you definitely are going to have an afterlife with this project, because it's, it's like an ongoing documentary.
Yes. And the vlogs I'm doing, which are numerous, none of that is material good enough to make it into the sequel.
Yeah.
And I have 29 vlogs already.
I've watched a bunch of them. I didn't, in preparation for the interview. So yeah, it's definitely,
It's just, my mind is blown. I mean, I don't want this to be the rest of my life. Like I said, I want to get back to focusing on cinestudy and other things. And, I'll make the announcement here is I have a co-director for the series, because the series is the continuation, the sequel is going to be 50% about me, but I cannot direct that.
Yeah.
I can't direct or edit that. It has no credibility if I have anything to say over my own biography.
Yeah, that's kind of narcissistic if you did do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want no part of it. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how the hell are you going to make that interesting? I'm boring as hell, but that's not up to me. Everybody's like, this has got to be a story of these two guys parallel, and if that's what they think it should be, I'm not gonna. Again, just like the whole procedure, it's like I don't think so, but if you do, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
But I can't do that part. So there's been a co-director for a year and a half.
Nice.
On part 2. And I mean, Matthew does not know who he is. I'm not going to say who he is at this point. We're not ready to announce that, but
Probably
it's another person that has nothing to do with anything that Matthew's never even heard of.
Final question here, or questions, I should say. When and where is the film going to be available for people to see?
Okay, at the end of May, it will be released on Amazon Prime for rental and purchase. And then we've got a few other places like Plex and a couple other services hitting in June and July.
Awesome. And where would you like any of my non-stalking fans to find you online?
I can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Everything's usually under the Social Media Monster documentary. There's socialmediamonsterdoc.com, which has, I guess, that's a huge thing I definitely want to say here. One of the biggest differences between a normal documentary and Social Media Monster is this deep dive aspect. Like in the documentary, there are emails and screenshots that are only on screen for like a few seconds. All of the emails, Facebook posts, Facebook messages, they're all available or going to be available on the website so that anybody who gets interested, anybody who watches this and even is skeptical, it's like, hey, we've got nothing to hide here. Here is the complete 740-page collection of emails between Matthew and the city of St. Joseph. That kind of thing.
That's awesome.
We're putting them completely out there, unedited, other than hiding the email addresses, so those are not necessarily public.
Awesome.
Stuff like that, the complete screenshots of the Facebook, like Flame Wars, all on the website. The whole Facebook message exchanges, all of them out there, because it's, again, if anybody wants to find out the depths of the madness, it's there. And it makes it nearly impossible for all of these kind of excuses kind of fall to pieces in the face of all of this evidence. None of it is photoshopped or created. None of it is hacked. That's such nonsense to try to say, I only get hacked when I break the law or look bad. That doesn't really work. I admitted I sent emails, but I'm only going to specify which ones if I read them first and determine how bad I look about them. Yeah, that doesn't really work. These are all the emails. These are all the Facebook messages and stuff. It's all there. I mean, there's that ability to take the deep dive is entirely there. And that's what I think is different, because you watch something like Tiger King, if you wanted more, there wasn't a centralized location of all of the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what was the full thing that happened there?
Mm-hmm.
So doing that is, I think, made a big difference between us and any other documentary.
Yeah, I wish more documentaries would do that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I call it the deep dive or the full disclosure.
Yeah, just wanted to thank you for taking your time today to talk to me. And if you want to come back on anytime when things develop, just let me know, and I'd love to have you on again.
Thanks again so much. I really appreciate it.
So that was my interview there. Hope you enjoyed that. Any final thoughts here, Sesame, before we wrap things up?
No, not really.
Yeah, so be kind to one another. That's the number one thing that we should all do. And be sure to check out Social Media Monster when that movie drops on Amazon Prime at the end of May, and then later this year on other streaming platforms. But check it out, and be sure to follow all of our links to Peter John Ross and his work. Be sure to check out our TeePublic, our Patreon. Check out our social media. Speaking of social media, don't be a monster to us, though. Give us a 5-star review wherever you can. Follow us, share the show, and until next time, just remember that I love you, Sesame loves you, and until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Haas. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.